this episode, we're going to go through numbers 16 through 20. And there are some great films that's included on this episode, and some real personal favorites of mine, things that I really enjoy. I think many of you would too. I'm probably not going to go into great depth on each one of these. Some of them I will more than others, but I don't want to tell you too much about it. If some of these you haven't seen, then you ought to, and I don't want to ruin it for you. So you ought to check these films out because they're well worth your time. Number 16, and this is a rather modern day Western from 1994. Well, once again, I'm talking about 1990s as being recent, but 1994's film, The Legends of the Fall. This film is a great, super film, and this will be the first film I mentioned that has Brad Pitt in it. Brad Pitt stars in this along with Anthony Hopkins, Aidan Quinn, Henry Thomas, and Julia Ormond. And all these actors and actresses are great, absolutely super in this film. You can't find a more intriguing Western film than this one, I think. This film is very well done, and it's Brad Pitt's often regarded as a pretty boy, but this is a super acting performance by him in this, and he's really mainly the star of this whole film. The film is narrated by a Cree Indian called One Stab. This film takes place in the early 20th century. William Ludlow has been a colonel in the military, and he's tired of what the military's done with the Indians, and he just decided to get away from it. He wants to build a ranch in Montana. And him and his three sons, Alfred, Tristan, and Samuel, the colonel's wife leaves him, and they're left pretty much alone. Well, Samuel decides he wants to go to the First World War, and nobody really wants him to, but he goes. Tristan goes with him, promising Samuel's girlfriend that he'll protect him and keep him safe. And I'm not going to really get into the specifics of this film because there's so much going on here. I don't want to ruin it for you. But Legends of the Fall is just one of the greatest films that you may have ever seen. It's just a super film. I can't say enough about it. I watched it again recently just because it's that well done. The William Ludlow character done by Anthony Hopkins, he does a marvelous job in this film, and something happens to him health-wise, and he carries this role even when he's limited by that. And I'm not going to get into it, but this is just superb. You ought to see it for yourself. You'll thank me. So number 16 is Legends of the Fall from 1994. Coming in at number 17 is a film from 1959 called Ride Lonesome. This film was just very well done, and the director and the writer are pretty well famous, and it's just an excellent film. This film stars Randolph Scott, and he's the first. This is the first film we mentioned that include Randolph Scott in a starring role, and he's excellent in this. There's also in this film is Pernell Roberts, who you will remember playing Adam Cartwright in Bonanza. There's Lee Van Cleef, of course, and he's been mentioned in earlier films, but Lee Van Cleef is just one of the greatest bad guys of all time in film, and he's excellent in this film. This is also, and it may be the first appearance of James Coburn in a feature film, but he's excellent in this as well. This film starts off with Randolph Scott. His name's Ben Brigade, and he's a bounty hunter. And the film starts off with him coming through the rocks and capturing a guy named Billy John. A character's been in a lot of westerns, a man named James Best. That name may not mean much to you, but if you've ever watched the old Dukes of Hazzard, you remember Chef Rascal P. Coltrane? Yep, that's James Best. And James Best was actually in a lot of westerns. and he's a pretty good actor. If all you've ever seen him in is the old Dukes of Hazzard TV series, you missed him. But he's in a lot of films. If you'll watch, you'll see him in a lot of them. With Ben Brigade going to haul him off and take him back, Billy John tells him his family won't allow it, and he screams at the people up at the Rocks to go get help for him. And that's how the film starts. And Randolph Scott is just one of the great actors of all time. He's superb in westerns. He's a great actor. He's just seems to have a presence in front of the screen. I mean, he dominates the screen in much the same way that Gary Cooper and John Wayne also did. And Randolph Scott is just a magnificent actor. Of some of the greatest Western actors of all time, you'd have to list Randolph Scott right there with the others, such as John Wayne and Gary Cooper, because he's just a real figure in American cinema, and he's well worth your time to watch him. And this film, Ride Lonesome, is just superb, and you ought to check it out. You won't regret it. Coming in at number 18 is a film from 1964 called A Fistful of Dollars. Clint Eastwood starred in this film. It was what is often called a spaghetti western. It was directed by Sergio Leone, and he did several westerns. He did 3 westerns over there, a trilogy of westerns over there, where Clint Eastwood played guys in the American West, and none of these films he really had a name in. He was kind of the character with no name. The Fistful of Dollars is the first in this trilogy, and it was followed by A Few Dollars More and The Good and the Bad and the Ugly, which strangely enough is the theme music from that. It happens to be my ringtone on my phone, so that's neither here nor there. But I thought it was an interesting bit of trivia that you might find amusing. The great thing about this Western and why it makes this list, A Fistful of Dollars, is it's really our first real appearance of Clint Eastwood outside of television. The big studios in Hollywood really, they fired him and Burt Reynolds the same day. Basically, Burt Reynolds was told that he couldn't act, and Clint Eastwood was told he had too big an Adam's apple. So anyway, Clint Eastwood wasn't making any headway other than television as Ratty Yates, and he went overseas and did 3 films over there, which started what we call the spaghetti westerns. This film, directed by Sergio Leone, has been copied by everybody from Quentin Tarantino, who loves spaghetti westerns. If you've ever seen any of the films by Tarantino, you will see aspects of Sergio Leone's work in all of his films, and it just, what makes this film significant is it's the first major film appearance of Clint Eastwood, and the guy, you got to admit, has had a fairly decent career, and he'll probably get along okay. Well, the rest, you say, is history. Clint Eastwood kind of changed Hollywood and kind of changed the Western film industry, and he's a significant figure in Western film and cinema, and you can't go on without mentioning Clint Eastwood, because besides being a great actor, he's been a superb director as well. A Fistful of Dollars is number 18. Number 19, and I'm kind of excited about talking about this one. It is a film from 1972 called Junior Bonner. The reason I like Junior Bonner is it has a great cast in it. It stars Steve McQueen, Robert Preston, Ida Lupino, Ben Johnson again. Ben Johnson's everywhere. You're going to see him in my top 50 list. You're going to see Ben Johnson repeated over and over again. Barbara Lee, Joe Don Baker, who played the original original film Walking Tall. And there's just some great actors in this. And perhaps besides this being a great film, I have some personal connections to it. This film was written by a man named Jeb Rosebrook, and I am actually friends with his son, who is Stuart Rosebrook, who's present vice president of the Western Writers of America. Stuart Rosebrook along with being Jeb Rosebrook's son, is also a very talented writer, author, and speaker. He just he I don't know too much. The man doesn't do well, and people like that kind of get you. I mean, he made a speech at the Western Writers Convention that maybe one of the finest speeches I've ever seen at a convention yet. I was just thoroughly impressed. But Stewart's a friend of mine. The film Junior Bonner is about an aging rodeo cowboy, bull rider, whose best days are probably behind him. It kind of starts off with him losing a rodeo and getting all beat up. Bull just beats him up something fierce. And then he goes to Prescott, Arizona. He wants another chance. He thinks he can win. And he actually bribes Ben Johnson, a figure named Ben Roan, to try to make sure he draws the toughest bull that they have, because he wants a shot at it. And he really believes that he can win. And so that's how the film starts. And it just involves around Junior Bonner and problems within his family and his brother and his dad and his mother. And there's just a lot of dreamers in this film. And that's kind of what it's about. Just people that dream, and it's about a lot of things, and it's a very great story. There's so many levels of tension and drama in this thing that it's a super film. Junior Bonner was also directed by Sam Peckinpah, who's known so much for the violence, but this one is a little different for him, and I think that's something else that makes it outstanding. I watched it recently again, and I had not seen it for years and years ago, and I probably didn't see it. I probably hadn't seen it since I was a kid, and I didn't fully appreciate it then or fully understand it. And then watching it again recently, I was just more and more impressed. And Steve McQueen is just a super actor, and this is the first time we mentioned him in my top 50 Western films of all time. And Steve McQueen is excellent in this role. You ought to see it. It's well worth your time. Jeb Rosebrook, who wrote this, was just a talented writer. He wrote for television and film. He probably wrote a whole bunch of the early Gunsmoke you saw. He wrote in a lot of things, and he was just an accomplished writer. And I'm sad that I never got to meet him. I know his son, and we're friends. And strangely enough, Jeb Rosebrook passed away in 2018, which was the same year my dad got killed in a farm accident. They both our fathers died in the same year, so Stewart and I kind of have somewhat of a connection. We both lost our dads the same year, and both of us had fathers that we greatly admired. And one of the things I like about this film, Junior Bonner, is the incorporation of family in this, the difficulties and the problems that sometimes come amongst families, but those ties that kind of keep people together. And this is just an outstanding film, a super film, something you ought to check out. And the last film on my list, number 20, is a 1971 feature called Lawman with Burt Lancaster. And I cannot say enough about this film. This film is one of my personal favorites. And I like the character he plays in this film. I believe it's the first film that we see Burt Lancaster. But he's just an outstanding actor. No, it isn't the first time. Burt Lancaster actually played a part in Tombstone, who I mentioned earlier, and I forgot that for a moment. But Burt Lancaster is super in this. He carries this role. He stars along with Robert Ryan, Lee J. Cobb, Sherry North, Robert Duvall again, and his name appears in so many of these westerns. He was in True Grit and other films that you won't hear the last of Robert Duvall, I'm sure. J.D. Cannon, that name may not mean much to you, but if you remember the old television series McCloud, J.D. Cannon was the guy that played Chief Clifford, who was always getting aggravated with McCloud and his escapades here in New York City. Albert Salmi is in this film too. This film was just loaded. The film starts out, a bunch of cowboys and are drunk and they're shooting up this western town of Bannock, and an old man during the shooting. And it's just like a lot of these old western towns. Cowboys would drive cattle into town and then they'd get drunk and celebrate afterwards. Well, during the course of one of the celebrations, they shooting up windows and blowing things up. They accidentally kill an old man in Bannock, the western town of Bannock. Unfortunately for them, the sheriff in that town is a man named Jared Maddox, who is played by Burt Lancaster. Burt Lancaster in this film, superb. I mean, it's an excellent film. Burt Lancaster, many of you won't like him. You won't like the character. But I love the fact that Maddox, he has a job to do. He's going to go arrest these men and bring them back to face trial. He doesn't care what the reason was. He doesn't care what the reason behind it. He cares nothing about other than fulfilling his job, getting these men back and making them stand trial. He doesn't care whether they're let off by the courts or not. All he sees is his job. His job as sheriff is to bring these men back and make them stand up and face law for their crimes. And other than that, he has no interest in it. One of the men that led these people during this thing was Lee J. Cobb's character, a man named Vincent Bronson. He's a rich rancher, and he's pretty well used to being able to do anything he wants because he pretty well runs the town. He pretty well owns the sheriff in town, a man named Cotton Ryan, who is played by Robert Ryan, who is actually superb in this film, and he plays a pretty nuanced character. You think he's just kind of a lowly sheriff that just take orders from the rich guy in town, Bronson, but no, he's a lot more than that. He's an old-time friend of Jared Maddox, and he knows Maddox, and he knows Maddox isn't the guy to play around. Lee J. Cobb's character thinks he can probably buy Maddox off, and Cotton Ryan, the sheriff, tells him, it ain't gonna happen. You can't buy him off, and he doesn't believe it at first. And a few of these guys decide they're gonna kill Maddox before he has a chance to take him in, and they try, and it doesn't turn out well for them. Jared Maddox sees nothing but his mission. He doesn't care about anything. He doesn't care about nuance. He cares about nothing other than his job, and he's going to bring these people back. And many of you will even say he's heartless, and many of the people in the film thought he was heartless as well. But I think he's an interesting character, a great Western character who sees right and wrong in black and white. He has no ability to see shades of gray. So this is a film you ought to check out. If you've never seen it, you need to go watch it. This week, my number 16 through 20 of my top 50 greatest Western films of all time. Number 16, Legends of the Fall. Number 17, Ride Lonesome. Number 18, A Fistful of Dollars. Number 19, Junior Bonner. And number 20, Lawman. If you've enjoyed this, hit like and subscribe. But I hope you'll come back next week. Thank you again. Bye now.